In the final part of our Christmas and New Year break, we continue to explore the beautiful island of Mauritius. In this video, we visit the Geopark, make a trip to a beautiful island, explore more of the picturesque beaches, and do some underwater activities. You join me as I wake up early to catch another beautiful sunrise on the island. Good morning everyone. For sunrise today I've come to Morne beach. Compared to a couple of nights ago, I've come to a slightly different area and I'm actually walking in front of the very expensive resort here. And from what I've read, I'm allowed to walk between the sea and the high tide mark. Anything sort of further into the resort, up the beach, that's obviously private land, so obviously not going to do that, not going to trespass. But yeah, this is obviously a lovely part of the beach, but it's kind of been manufactured that way a little bit. It's a bit like the Maldives where they pick the like the seaweed out and make the sand very clean, and they've put looks like they've put in loads of palm trees, so it's very photogenic, shall we say. But yeah, it's a really nice walk actually. Where I was actually photographing a little bit earlier, it's a little bit of a walk, but it's nice and quiet at this time obviously. But when I was here for sunset a couple of nights ago, it was equally quiet. I think most people sort of stay on the public beach area, but it's nice just to have a walk along here, see what you're missing out on, I suppose. Plan for this morning is we're going to head up into the mountains a little bit and visit somewhere called the 7 Coloured Earths. I think that's what it's called, but essentially it's a little parcel of land which has been exposed, and you can see the soil and you can see the different colours in it that's come about through the different minerals. I've heard it's one of the must-do or one of the most popular things to do here, so it'd be a shame not to do that. It's not that expensive either, so it's a bit of a no-brainer. And also one thing to mention is that it's New Year's Eve today. So we're hoping tonight we're going to see some fireworks. So the plan is we're going to go to a beach, either this beach or there's another beach called Flic and Flac. Essentially we want to go somewhere where there are a lot of hotels or resorts, you know, because they'll be doing something, they'll have something planned for their guests. So if we can piggyback on that, on the sort of public part of the beach, then we're going to do that. We then made our way to the Geopark to see the 7 Coloured Earths. We got there as soon as the park opened so we could avoid the crowds. From what I read, a lot of the tours start to arrive about an hour after opening time, so we made sure to get in early. And this was pretty incredible to see, with so many beautiful shades of colour. Fortunately, it was quite sunny, which I think really helps to bring out all of the colours. In the Geopark, you'll also find a brilliant viewpoint of the Chamarel waterfall. We were here in Mauritius at the end of the dry season. I'm sure at the end of the wet season, this is even more impressive. We then stopped for breakfast nearby at Le Chamarel restaurant, which is quite a pricey restaurant in the evening, but for breakfast the menu is quite affordable. Later in the day we made the hour-and-a-half drive over to the east of the island, where we then got a boat to an island. I think this boat crossing is actually operated by the hotel, which is nearby, but the ferry crossing is open to non-guests. We were just told to pay the crossing fee at the bar when we arrived on the island. And this was a very pretty island. As you can see, a lot of the day tours go here. There was one beach on the east side which was particularly beautiful. Just as we were heading back, a lot of the tours had left the island and it felt like we had the whole place to ourselves. On the way back to our accommodation, we made a stop at Flic and Flac beach for sunset. And then, as this was New Year's Eve, we headed to Tamarin Beach to enjoy the firework displays. As you can imagine, the morning of New Year's Day was pretty quiet, so we headed to Morne Beach to get some photos without too many people. Later that day, we headed to a beach called Blue Bay and we had some fresh fish for lunch. We then relaxed on the beach in the afternoon. For sunset, we headed back to Morne Beach, but this time to an area that we hadn't yet been to.
the next day, I headed to a beach that I spotted when we drove past the day before.
Welcome to another beautiful day in Mauritius. Beautiful sunrise this morning. Just heading back to the car now, and that was a good morning actually. I think I got a nice photo from it, and it's quite interesting actually because I only really found this location as we were driving by yesterday. I just noticed there were some nice palm trees and there were a few boats that looked quite picturesque, so kind of thought I'll make a note of that and then come back another time, and glad I did actually.
Later in the day we did some snorkelling just off Le Morne beach, and we got pretty lucky actually with seeing a turtle. We made a quick stop for lunch before then heading to one of the beaches that we visited earlier in the week. Just as it approached sunset, a rain cloud passed overhead, which led to probably the best light of the whole trip. It was just beautiful. The next morning we had a really exciting activity planned, swimming with dolphins. We made the very short boat ride out to where the dolphins were. We initially watched from the boat before we then had a few goes to dive into the water just as they passed by. I think we had about 4 goes at diving in to see them. As you can tell by the footage, it was quite chaotic, but at the same time, a pretty amazing experience. For our last night in Mauritius, we splurged out a bit on a nice hotel, and so we made our way to the Sand Suites Resort for check-in. And so the rest of the day was spent relaxing by the pool and doing some water activities. Alright, so it's our last night here in Mauritius and we've checked into the fancy hotel. We're only here for one night, but what we thought for our last night is chill out on the beach, chill out on the pool, and yeah, we just sort of spent the day doing exactly that. We did paddleboard actually. There's lots of like equipment you can rent here that's included in the price. That's something I've wanted to do for like years and years but never got around to it, but it was pretty good fun actually. For the last sunrise of the trip, I went to a viewpoint of a mountain peak, not too far away from the hotel. I headed back to the hotel and was then reminded of this incredible view. I then saw the boats out in the bay, doing the same swimming with the dolphins tour that we did the previous day. So I put the drone up in the air to see if I could spot anything, and was very surprised with the result. So it's our last day here in Mauritius. It's a very chilled day, to be honest, because we've got a late night flight. It's at 10 p.m. It's pretty much a day of just, chilling out, enjoying the last of the sun before going back to the cold UK. It's kind of got to that point in the trip where we're just sort of reflecting on our 2 weeks. 1 week in Reunion and then 1 week here in Mauritius. It's been a good trip, to be honest. A trip full of, I think, surprises and kind of reaffirming what we thought before the trip. I think Reunion surprised both of us, actually, just in terms of how much there was to do there and just how pretty it was. There's a lot of activities that you can do and lots of hiking, lots of waterfalls. It just sort of feels like a much more active island. I think a week is probably not long enough. We could have done with an extra day or two, to be honest, just to properly explore like the east side of the island. Whereas Mauritius, on the other hand, is a little bit more laid back, and you can understand why people want to come here. If you're just sort of looking for a bit of sun and just sort of relax on the beach, then I think this is the perfect place to come. We then headed to the airport, and that would wrap up our time in Mauritius. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully see you in the next one.